Respect in a room has snapped before my eyes. One cold range night this year, a pistol everyone had talked up for months coughed twice in front of a full line of shooters. Nobody said a word, but you could feel its status drop straight through the concrete. Since that night, I've stopped caring what sounds good online and started keeping score where respect is actually earned. I've measured it on instructors' belts, in abused rental guns, on long-term carry, and in the hard classes where pistols usually go to die. In 2026, a lot of loud names have been quietly demoted, while a small handful of plain, hard-use pistols kept their standing with people who don't give that word away. The guns in this lineup are the ones that stayed honest under all of that. One handgun in here even turned the loudest critic on my range into a quiet carrier in a single weekend. And that gun ended up at the very top of this list. Last summer on a hot Texas range, I watched a few serious pistols lose respect in a hurry. A fancy optics gun started coughing once the pace picked up. A slim little micro began choking when its owner got tired. And a metal tactical toy that looked the part didn't like cheap ammo and dust. The drills didn't change. The guns just couldn't hang. To stop the line from falling apart, I grabbed a Glock 19 Gen 5 out of my bag. Same drills, same ammo, same sunburn. I ran it through the same shooters who'd just been fighting their own pistols. The group settled, malfunctions disappeared, and guys who had been blaming their hands suddenly had nothing left to blame. The gun didn't feel special. It just felt predictable. That day, I noticed how boring that Glock really was. It went in and out of holsters, hit what it was pointed at, and never became the story. 3 other pistols lost status in my notebook. The Glock 19 Gen 5 didn't gain hype. It gained something worse to argue with. It refused to embarrass anyone. That's why it sat on my list of the most respected handguns of 2026. In my world, respect hasn't come from what a department issued. It has come from what a man bought with his own money when nobody was watching. Policy has filled holsters. Belief has filled nightstands. By 2026, I had watched that gap quietly open up, and the H&K VP9 kept falling on the belief side of it. I've seen plenty of guys run their issued plastic duty pistols all week without a single complaint. They shoot them fine, they qualify, and they go home. Then they show up to my harder classes on their own time, off the clock, and the pistol on their belt has changed. The badge gun stayed in the trunk. The VP9 came out of the bag. Same shooter, same drills, different gun when it was their time, their ammo, their skin in the game. One deputy I know had thousands of rounds through his issued sidearm. No drama. But every time training stopped being paperwork and started being real work, the VP9 lived on his hip, and the duty gun went back to being a requirement. If the gun you wear for policy isn't the one you reach for when you're alone, you already know which one earned your respect. Whether you want to say that out loud is on you. I used to treat the CZ-P10C like a joke I'd already told. In my head, real CZs were metal. And this thing was a plastic copy living in the safe, because I'd gotten a good deal. On range days, I grabbed the guns I respected and left this one at home. One quiet day last year, I got tired of hearing my own opinion and decided to prove myself right. I set up drills, same ammo, and ran them with my main pistol first. Then I dragged the P10C out like a punishment and shot the same strings again. The targets didn't care. Groups tightened instead of opening up, splits got quicker, sight picture settled faster than I wanted to admit. After a few runs, I ran out of excuses and had to swallow that the only thing holding that gun back was my snobbery, not its work. I still didn't start showing it off. I just stopped pretending it was beneath the guns I like to talk about. Now, when I line up my polymer pistols and ask myself which ones would actually hurt to lose, the P10C sits in a different pile. I don't have to like that. But after what came next on this list, I stopped trusting my own ego a lot more than I stopped trusting that gun. At the end of last year, I dumped a pile of pistols on the table for a real cleaning. Full-size guns optics toys, the stuff that gets talked about and filmed. Sitting in the middle was my Ruger Max 9, and it looked like it had been through a different life. Holster wear on the nose, sweat marks on the slide, lint packed into places I didn't want to admit I'd ignored. When I worked backward from that table, it wasn't range days I saw. It was hours in a truck seat, gas stations at midnight, grocery runs, walking into places where something in my gut felt wrong. On the days I didn't feel like being gun guy, when I was tired or sore or just done, that was the gun I actually strapped on. The pretty pistols on that table had cleaner edges and better stories. The Max 9 just had miles. It hadn't been the most fun to shoot, and it never tried to impress anybody. It just quietly did the job, while other guns sat in foam and oil. If your serious pistol still looks new, and your smallest, sweatiest gun looks like this one did, which one really has your respect? I used to drag the Beretta 92 FS to the range like a prop from an old cop movie. Heavy, big, slide safety in the wrong place, boomer gun energy all over it. In my head, 2026 belonged to polymer striker guns with optics. The 92 was just an old dog I kept, so nobody could say I'd never shot the classic. Then I started running it in the same garbage conditions as the modern stuff. Dusty bays, wet qual days, long strings on cheap ammo. Little issues crept into the serious plastics, random stoppages, ammo sensitivity, controls that got weird with gloves and cold hands. The 92 FS just sat there cycling, like it hadn't heard the joke. One ugly day, I brought it, almost hoping it would finally give me the failure I'd been waiting on. It didn't. Shooters who grabbed it shot softer, flatter, more controlled than the pistols they swore were the future. I walked off that line knowing the only one not taking it seriously was me. If you're laughing at this gun from behind a plastic pistol that hasn't survived half that abuse, what exactly are you laughing at? And the next gun on this list went after every lie I'd built about what a small pistol could get away with. There's a gun wall at a local shop I've been watching for years. Some pistols show up loud and leave, then crawl back into the used case, a month later looking new. Others just sit there gathering dust and price tags. The Hellcat Pro row is different. New ones don't stay long, and used ones almost never make it to the weekend. A few months ago, I was at that counter when a regular walked in with a compact he'd sworn was his upgrade. He laid it on the glass and asked what he could get for it, then pointed straight at a Hellcat Pro. No speech, just a tired laugh, and yeah, I shouldn't have sold the last one. He'd paid for that pistol twice, just to get back where he started. That isn't internet hype. That's a man admitting the gun was worth more than his pride. Watching that wall and watching him changed how I looked at this list of the most respected handguns of 2026. Respect in that place wasn't loud. It was the gun a grown man was willing to buy back. And if that sounds strong, the next pistol didn't just beat pride, it bulldozed it. The loudest critic on my range never just disliked the Shield Plus. He mocked it. Too small. Too light. Backup gun bullshit. In his head, real pistols started at full size. And he carried his like a billboard every weekend. Then we had a 2-day class that pulled the mask off. Heat, sweat, cheap ammo, longer strings. His big hero gun started coughing just enough to matter. Little stoppages, ugly reloads, confidence leaking out of him in front of everybody. I got tired of watching it and tossed him my Shield Plus. Run the drill, no speech. Same drill, same ammo, same timer. His hits settled. Recoil stopped yanking him around. Times came back in line. He ran it again without being asked. By the afternoon, he wasn't talking about tiny guns anymore. He was just shooting and looking at his own target like it had lied to him for years. A few weeks later, he walked back in with his full size in a box and a Shield Plus on his belt. Like that had always been the plan. That pistol didn't win an argument. It made a grown man eat his own mouth in front of a firing line and change guns anyway. And that's why it sat at the top of this list. Lining these up on the table has reminded me that respect hasn't come from logos or launch dates. It has come from guns that kept working after long classes, bad weather, cheap ammo, and tired hands. A few must-have pistols with big online fan clubs never even qualified once their real report cards were laid out. That loudest critic I talked about at the start walked onto my range, trashing one gun in particular by Sunday evening. He was loading that same Smith & Wesson M&P9 Shield Plus into his own holster, and he hasn't gone back since. In my world, that's how it earned its place at the top of this list. I'm Steve, and I've watched enough plastic trophies come and go. The guns that are still here have already judged the rest. The